You know, in the NBA, some dates on the calendar, they're not just numbers, are they?
Yeah, no.
They're like trigger points, deadlines that force some kind of action. And if you were watching the Golden State Warriors yesterday morning, January 16th, 2026, well, you saw a massive trigger get pulled.
Yep.
It's finally official. Jonathan Kuminga has requested a trade.
It finally happened. I mean, the whole will he, won't he thing that's been hanging over the Bay Area for, 2 years now, it's over.
But you're right to focus on the date.
Absolutely. Because January 16th isn't just some random Friday.
No, it feels surgical, doesn't it? Like he didn't just wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
It's completely surgical. We have to. We have to look at the contract he signed in the offseason. Remember that.
The 2-year, $40-something million one?
Exactly. The 2-year, $46.8 million deal. And, well, buried deep in the CBA stipulations for that specific contract was a restriction.
Yeah, okay.
He legally could not be traded until mid-January.
And so, literally, on the very day the restriction lifted, not a week later, not after another road trip, the moment he was eligible, the request goes in. I mean, that's an intentionality we have to unpack.
Oh, it's what you might call malicious compliance at its absolute finest. It sends a message. This isn't some emotional outburst after a bad game.
No.
This is a calculated business decision. He waited for the window to open, and he climbed right through it. But our mission today in this deep dive isn't just to look at the request itself. We have a huge stack of reporting here, debates with Kendrick Perkins, Richard Jefferson, some insider notes. We need to use this as a case study.
A case study on what specifically? To me, it just feels like another unhappy young player.
It's so much bigger than that. This is a case study on the life cycle of a dynasty. It's the final violent friction point between the system, that 15-year machine built around Steph,
Right.
and the talent Kuminga, who just never, ever fit the mold. It is the death rattle of the whole two-timeline strategy.
It really feels like the bill has finally come due for them, trying to have it both ways. And the reporting we have is fascinating because it's so divisive. There's a real blame game going on.
Yeah,
Is it the coach's fault or is it management's fault?
exactly.
But before we get to the finger pointing, I want to start with the atmosphere. Because usually, when a young star publicly demands out, you expect the whole team environment to be a complete disaster.
Yeah, total toxicity. You expect leaks, shouting matches, players unfollowing each other on social media, the whole circus.
Exactly. But the reporting on the vibe in Golden State is, well, it's shockingly calm, almost eerily quiet. What are we seeing there?
It's the eye of the storm phenomenon. The sources are all saying Steph Curry has been completely even keel about all this. When he was asked yesterday, Steph flat out said Kuminga hasn't been a distraction. He comes in, does his work.
Which is classic Steph, right? The ultimate professional. But it wasn't just him. Draymond Green, who is usually the volatility index for that team.
The guy starting the fires. Yeah.
He echoed that. He actually said Kuminga is handling this whole situation better than I would.
And that's a massive endorsement coming from Draymond, of all people. And then we have to mention the other voice in that locker room, which is still so surreal to say in 2026, Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah.
I still do a double take seeing him in a Warriors jersey. But yeah, Jimmy is on this roster, and he's on record defending Kuminga too.
Yeah.
He basically implied the problem isn't the player.
So, okay, let's just pause and think about what that tells us. If the leaders, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, are all cool with Kuminga, then the toxicity, it isn't lateral.
It's not peer-to-peer.
Exactly. The guys in the jersey next to him are not the problem.
So the players respect his game.
They absolutely do. In fact, Kendrick Perkins brought up this fascinating point in our source material. Said he wants to run a poll of current and former players. Just one question.
Okay.
Is Jonathan Kuminga an elite talent?
And what does he think the answer would be?
The implication is that in open runs, in the summer, in pickup games where there's no structure, his NBA peers look at Kuminga and they see a superstar. They see the size, the athleticism.
The whole package.
The whole package. But then you look at him in the Warriors' structured system, and he's capped. He's third in scoring. First in rebounding, sure, but he looks restrained.
That dissonance is the key, isn't it? You have a guy who thinks he's a Ferrari, his teammates think he's a Ferrari, but the coaching staff is driving him like a sensible sedan because they're worried about gas mileage.
That's a perfect analogy. And that disconnect leads us straight to the blame game. Because if the locker room isn't the problem, who is? We've got two very distinct camps in the reporting. Camp A is pointing the finger squarely at Steve Kerr.
This was the Kendrick Perkins argument, and he did not mince words. He basically said, Steve Kerr is the problem, period.
It's the short leash argument. The theory is that Kerr just refuses to trust young players to play through their mistakes. Perkins even compared it to the situation in Denver with Peyton Watson.
I thought that was a really smart comparison. Can you break that down? Why does that specific player matter here?
Well, Watson flourished because his coach, Michael Malone, let him be messy. He let him fail and stay on the court. Perkins' argument is that no real hooper, and he really emphasized that term can perform if their mental space is cluttered.
Okay, let's dig into that mental space idea for a second. That feels like something that gets lost in all the analytics.
It's huge. If you're out there playing and you're constantly doing calculus in your head, if I miss this rotation, I'm getting pulled, or if I take this shot early, I'm sitting for the rest of the quarter. You just play stiff. You hesitate.
And in the NBA, hesitation is death.
Precisely. If you're half a second late because you're worried about the coach, that window is closed. Perkins argues Kerr basically destroyed Kuminga's confidence by never giving him that unconditional trust. He made him play looking over his shoulder.
Okay, but I want to play devil's advocate here for a minute. Because that narrative, it sounds good, but does the data actually support it? Is it really true that Kerr just hates young players?
That's fair, and the source material actually offers a counter-argument.
Right.
If you look at this 2026 rotation, Kerr is running an 11-man deep rotation. It's packed with young guys. Moses Moody is 23, Brandon Podziemski is 22, Quentin Post is 25, Guy Santos is 23. These guys are getting real minutes.
So he is playing young guys. It's not an age thing.
No, it doesn't seem to be about the date on their birth certificate. It's more like decision discrimination. Kerr plays the young guys who make the decisions he likes. He benches the guys who break the flow of the system.
And that leads us right to Camp B in the blame game.
Exactly. It's the GM's fault. This was the Richard Jefferson stance.
Jefferson's take felt a bit more systemic. He's basically saying, look at the resume. Steve Kerr is a 4-time champion coach. Steph Curry is a unanimous MVP. They built a system, the Steph system, that literally changed the entire sport.
Right, and Jefferson asks a very hard, very pragmatic question. Are we really expecting Steph Curry and Draymond Green to change their identity, the identity that hung 4 banners, just to accommodate a 24-year-old who hasn't won anything?
When you frame it like that, it sounds ridiculous. You don't ask the Rolling Stones to change their set list because the new backup guitarist wants to play some jazz.
Exactly. So if the coach's job is to maximize his best players, Steph and Draymond, and the young player's style just fundamentally clashes with that, who's to blame?
The person who drafted the square peg and tried to jam it into the round hole? The general manager?
The GM. The source notes this goes all the way back to draft night. Apparently, Draymond was pushing for Kuminga then, but clearly, the idea of Kuminga and the reality of Kuminga in a motion offense, 2 very different things.
So we have this stylistic clash. But here's where I want to push back on the system defense. Systems aren't religious texts. They can change. The source brought up Greg Popovich.
That is the gold standard comparison.
Popovich had this beautiful flowing system in San Antonio. But when they got LaMarcus Aldridge, Pop publicly said, I have to change. Yep. He scrapped parts of his offense to fit Aldridge's ISO mid-range game. Rick Carlisle is another one.
Oh yeah, he changes his offense every time he changes teams. It's the mark of a great coach. Adaptability. You mold the scheme to the talent, not the other way around.
So why won't Kerr adapt for Kuminga? Is it just stubbornness? Is it ego?
It might be a little bit of both. But the brutal answer from our sources is Jonathan Kuminga just isn't LaMarcus Aldridge.
Ouch. That is harsh.
It's harsh, but look at the accolades. When Pop changed his system, Aldridge was a 6-time All-Star, a proven commodity. Kuminga is a dazzling talent, for sure, but he hasn't reached that tier where you dismantle a championship infrastructure just for him.
That's a fair point on the hierarchy. You don't rebuild the house for a guest who hasn't paid rent. But context matters, too. If the Warriors were the #1 seed right now, destroying everyone, I'd say Kerr's right, fall in line. But
it's 2026, and they are far from it.
Let's just look at the standings. The Warriors are sitting at 8th in the West. They're a play-in team. Again.
And Jimmy Butler, who always tells the unvarnished truth, he explicitly called the team mediocre.
And when Jimmy calls you mediocre, you have to listen. He doesn't say that to be mean. He says it because he sees the ceiling.
And we've seen cracks in the culture, too. You mentioned Draymond earlier. He recently walked right off the floor on Steve Kerr during a game.
That visual was striking.
It was alarming. You have a team fighting for its life in the standings, and your defensive leader, the heartbeat of the team, is walking out on the coach. That is not a cohesive unit.
No.
That is a team unraveling.
So this is the tragedy of the whole thing. You have a mediocre team clinging to a system that isn't producing elite results anymore, while at the same time, they're stifling their most valuable young asset. They aren't good enough to be this arrogant.
That's the mediocrity trap. They're stuck right in the middle. Perkins was actually savage about this. He listed teams like OKC, San Antonio, even the Pistons. He said those teams have a future. The Warriors, no future.
That feels extreme, but when you look at the timelines, OKC is set up for 2030. The Warriors are still trying to relive 2022.
They're holding on to the past while the future is literally requesting a trade.
So let's pivot to the solution. The marriage is over. The divorce papers are filed. If Kuminga leaves, what's the play? The sources talked about a very specific target that I found interesting because it signals a complete commitment to the old guard.
Michael Porter Jr.
MPJ. Why him? Because on paper, he's expensive, he's had back issues.
It all comes down to maximizing the step window. If you accept that Kuminga doesn't fit because he holds the ball, you need to go get someone who fits perfectly. MPJ is 6'10" and one of the best pure shooters in the entire league.
He gives them that lethal spacing, Kuminga doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about the gravity. If you have Steph Curry and MPJ on the floor, the defense can't help off anyone. It opens up the lane for Jimmy Butler to go to work. The source describes MPJ as a guy who can get you 25 points a night efficiently without needing to dribble the air out of the ball.
He's a catch-and-shoot assassin.
Yeah.
He fits that 0.5-second rule we talked about perfectly.
He absolutely does. It's a move that doubles down on their identity. You're trading raw, athletic, potential Kuminga for proven high-level fit MPJ. It's the Warriors saying, we are going to ride or die with the Steph system until the wheels fall completely off.
Okay, so that solves the Warriors' tactical problem. But what about Kuminga? If I'm him, I'm looking for a team where I can actually be the guy. I want to go somewhere I can take 20 shots a night and make mistakes.
Yeah.
Where does he land?
Perkins had a, let's call it a colorful suggestion. He suggested the Sacramento Kings.
The Kings. I laughed at his reasoning for that.
The only way they can go is up.
And then he clarified they need to get above ground first. That is just brutal.
Okay.
But honestly, take the joke away. From a basketball standpoint, does Sacramento even make sense?
You know, it makes sense if they just want a pure talent injection. They need athleticism. But another option that Richard Jefferson threw out was New Orleans.
Pairing him with Zion Williamson.
And Trey Murphy. Can you imagine the athleticism on that roster? Zion and Kuminga running the floor in transition. That's a terrifying physical prospect for defenses. It would be Lob City 2.0.
But there was some banter in the source about whether players actually want to go to New Orleans, right?
There was definitely some skepticism about the market appeal. But just basketball-wise, Kuminga needs a rebuild or a team on the come-up. He needs a team like the Pelicans or the Kings where expectations are lower and the freedom is higher. He needs to find out if he really is that elite talent everyone thinks he is,
right,
or if he's just a guy who puts up empty stats on a bad team.
And meanwhile, the Warriors need to decide if they're actually trying to win a title or just playing out the string. It's funny, despite all this drama, the trade requests, the mediocre comments, the Draymond walk-off, they did just beat the Knicks yesterday.
They did, 126-113, a convincing win against a good team.
And get this stat. Steph and Jimmy combined for 59 points.
And see, that's the tease. That's the drug that keeps the front office paralyzed.